Hello, my name is Thomas Porero and this is my video journal. I will try to explain here my experience implementing a SIOP lesson plan, how the process of planning was, how the execution was, and most importantly, what the reflection out of it is. First of all, I would like to start with planning. I have to say this is a basic English lesson. There are 17 students in this class, and the lesson is supposed to cover information from countable and uncountable nouns in the framework of foods and recipes. First of all, I had to consider basically what the book contents were, what the achievement indicators were, and what the syllabus was. Basically, what it told me is that I had to take my students to a level in which they would be able to describe a recipe, to describe processes, and to talk about foods using countable and uncountable nouns, using quantifiers, and of course, vocabulary about foods. Um, Putting a lesson together was neither simple nor hard, but it was a matter of being careful with the activities I was planning to implement, putting not too many activities, and trying to be super clear. So, first of all, I had the feeling that my students needed help with refreshing vocabulary. So I try to design an activity or a warm-up activity that helped them like connect with previous knowledge. And I really wanted to know how much they knew about this topic. So I went for exploring their learning goals. So we did it with the book contents and the book objectives. I had them fill out an KWL chart in which they would tell me what they know, what they want to know, and what they ultimately learn out of the lesson. So I do think learning or setting learning objectives is absolutely healthy as it helps my students like know what their objectives are on the one hand, but it also helps me know how far I could go and how either fast or slow I should go regarding certain content. So this was sort of like a diagnosis for me. The activities I planned were, of course, connected to food. So I went with a fruit salad activity, which is like a review game. But of course, here they were practicing vocabulary about fruits. And it was a TPR activity that actually went really well. They enjoyed it very much. And it gave us the chance to connect with the previous class. Later on, we went with a let's bake a cake activity, which was a hit. They definitely liked the idea of having like brainstorming all together, the things, to the ingredients to make a cake, and this helped me raise awareness on the fact that some nouns would be countable and uncountable, as we were categorizing vocabulary on two different columns. So finally, through eliciting, I managed to 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 help them discover whether nouns were countable or uncountable nouns. I wanted to go a step forward and do something related to senses. So that's when I decided to have my students um, sort of discover what what the foods are, like by means of using different senses. I guess this sort of aligns with like learning through experience framework, which means like not only they learn the vocabulary but the experience that each food would give them, and that was actually very fun. They enjoyed it very much, and well, I could say like the outcome was pretty decent. As for listening, we went for listening exercise using a local dish called changua, and there was this Colombian woman narrating or telling us how changua is made, what the ingredients are. Um, I depart from the principle of learners as doers. Then I had them like fill in a chart with the different words they use, like action verbs. They use she uses for making changua, such as make, stir, beat, reduce, add. So and these kinds of verbs ultimately help them for the communicative event, which was a creative cooking recipe. Well, this task required writing, So for writing, it's actually a very good idea to do a pre-writing activity. For this time, I did a song, which is Peanut Butters and Jelly, which is peanut butter, and jelly. So this song helped students like be aware of the vocabulary, not only the vocabulary they use for cooking, but also like the syntax or the word order. So those with musical intelligences would definitely took profit out of it, and they learned how to like organize a recipe and put the steps together, what you do first, then next, after that. And after that, they were able to create their own recipe in pairs. That was actually very fun. It was a song which some of them liked very much, and it definitely helped them for the writing principles. Simultaneously to all this process, I decided to use a learning strategy based on a Venn diagram. And this Venn diagram was basically an idea in which students would group words regarding countable and uncountable nouns, and they would put them under the right category, either countable, uncountable, or both. So they would take words like there is, there are, much, many, a lot, and they would put them in the word diagram, in the Venn diagram, depending on their opinion. So and depending on based on observation of the models, name it video, name it text, etc. So this Venn diagram definitely help them be aware of the words they would use with either countable or uncountable nouns or both. The communicative event of the class and the most important one, so to speak, was a creative cooking recipe. So my students did use the peanut butter song structure and some of the ingredients they learned from past and the verbs they learned in the video, and putting this all together, they came up with a creative cooking recipe, and it was actually very fun. And they came up with very interesting dishes. As for assessment, I decided to have them like evaluate or assess their partner's um, recipe, given 1, 2, or 3 stars. As a reflection, I could probably say that the lesson was successful, the objectives were met, and students had fun. I do think it's very important that learning is an enjoyable experience, and I do think my students had a good experience learning about countable and uncountable nouns. The outcomes were pretty decent, and well, what happens after that was also like quite interesting, which is like they were able to assess their own work and monitor themselves, which is a very important component, if you ask me. Bottom line, I would say that this lesson was successful. That, of course, it could have been better. Like probably if I had my students prepare more vocabulary in advance, eh, it would have been a little bit better. There could be always room for improvement. Probably if I had printed the formats I wanted them to use, like the Venn diagram and probably the T chart for the categorizing exercise, I could have probably saved a lot of time. But anyway, I am happy with the outcome, and I hope you are too. Thank you very much for listening. My name is James Forero for the TTI.